Dear friends, in this video, we are going to learn what is activity coverage. We are also going to see what is a partial coverage rate. We will also see what is a full coverage rate. Before we get started and understand what is this activity coverage which appears under the Test Explorer, we will have a demo and we will understand everything in detail. First of all, let us understand what is activity coverage. Activity coverage in UiPath refers to checking how well your test cases cover the activities within a workflow. Now again, this sentence may not be so easy to understand. Let me make it easy. For example, the test case that run, did it go through all the activity paths? Look at this particular workflow. Here there are multiple branches. So based on certain value, it will take the right path. Based on certain value, it will take the left path. Based on certain value, it will take the middle path and continue whichever, based on the values, it will take a decision which path to go. Now read this. The test case that run, did it go through all the activity paths or just some specific activity path? For example, you have given only one value in your test data, which will take the right path. For example, like this. It did not go through this path or it did not go through this path. So that means what? You have covered only portion of the workflow. You did not test this path. You did not test this particular path. You did not test, right? So you only tested the right specific path. So that means it will tell you, hey, you have covered only, let's say 33%, 53%, some percentage it will automatically calculate. The robot will calculate some specific activity path and what is the percentage of activities executed or covered. So when you hear this word covered means executed. So how many such activities have executed in your workflow, in your through the test case, through that workflow, how many activities got covered or got executed. So activity coverage, simply to understand, say executed, activity executed. Okay, coverage percentage, how many activities got covered. So here if you see that I had got some total 9 test cases. I will show that demo and all the different paths we have covered. So it is saying 100%, right? Now each of this specific test data covered certain percentage because it took certain path. Okay, so what is it? Now we got a bit of idea, but again, we have to see a demo of it. If possible, you will also create a demo on your UiPath Studio and try to learn in detail. So let's get started. Move on to UiPath Studio. Before we get started, I hope you have already subscribed to my channel. Let's see what is the first thing we have to do. The very first thing on the UiPath Studio, open any Xaml file, any blank Xaml file, okay, and build this specific workflow. I'm going to show you what is this workflow. Pretty simple one. I don't want to spend time here in the video, which will take a lot of time to design it and put it in the right format so that it appears good. So it is pretty simple. First thing what you do, I will teach you. The very first thing what you do, drag and drop the flowchart activity. Okay, this flowchart activity, and then the very first activity that I have put it here, which is a flow decision. Flow switch. Okay, so flow switch. There are two activities, flow decision and flow switch. So I have used a flow switch. Switch means you can have multiple branchings. And I have done a branching here. I have done a branching here and I have done a branching here. What this does, let me show you. First of all, let me open one Excel file. Okay, now this Excel file contains certain values. First is loan underscore volume. So there are certain categories of loan. One is less than 1,000 of loan you are asking. The other one is you are asking between 1,000 to 100,000 loan, or else you are asking greater than 100,000 loan. So these are the three different categories. Now let's say I have asked for 1,000 loan. I am saying I will pay it within a short term. Short term could be anything less than, let's say, 10 years. So it is getting some data and doing a categorization. So finally you have an Excel file, let's say, which contains certain data. 1K, I'm going to pay it within 10 years, or let's say 7 years I'm going to pay. So that falls under short-term category. The other one, anything above 10 years, it becomes a long-term category. So I'm taking this 1K to 100K. Let's say I have applied for $16,000. So that fall under this category. So these are the different categories. And this is a long-term loan. The other one is 100K. You have asked for more than $100,000 and you are saying you are a big company, you will pay it within 10 years, less than 10 years. So that will fall under short term. So like that, I have created simple data having short term, long term, short term, long term. These are the two categories. Now let us have a look at the workflow. Now what this workflow is doing, first in the loan volume, I have used an argument called loan underscore volume. Go to the argument section. You can see loan underscore volume is a string type. And here I'm passing certain categories. So what are the different categories that we have seen? These are the three categories. So let me first put it on a notepad. So it becomes quite easy. Okay, look at it. These are the three categories: less than 1K, 1K to 100K, greater than 100K. So these are three categories. Now going back to the studio, if you see, if somebody has applied, so here I've applied that argument value, which is a string argument. And here simply I have written 100K. So how do you write it? Simply click on it. And by default, you will find this as is default. Okay, this is how it will be checked. So uncheck it. So if you uncheck, case one will come. And here you simply put that category. So it is 100K category, right? Greater than 100K. Hit enter. So this is 100K. So if it is greater than 100K, it will take this path. If it is between 1K to 100K, it will take this path, which comes under mid volume loan. This is a high volume loan. If it is less than 1K, again the same process you follow, simply write it here. And this will become a low volume loan. Now in the low volume loan, for example, if you open it, I simply used a log message activity and saying this is a high volume loan less than $1,000. Because we wanted to understand activity coverage, this demo you should do it on your UiPath Studio. That's why I'm showing each of these activities one by one. Okay, so I have created a loan volume loan sequence here. These are the sequences, and inside the sequence you open it and put activity. Okay, done. Now the next thing for a mid volume, again I have written what? I have written this is a mid volume loan which is between 1K to 100K. I'm logging that. Okay, same thing goes with high volume. So create it as you are seeing it, slowly create it. This is a high volume loan greater than 100K. Done. This is pretty simple sequence that you can create. After that, again, I am using a flow switch activity. What I'm using? Flow switch activity. Now in the flow switch activity here, I have used another argument called term. So the workflow that you are creating for test case, ensure you are having arguments, because for test case, you can't have a variables. You need to have the same arguments here. Okay. So here by mistake, I've created one, but it's not required. So you should be creating arguments. Okay. So here next is term. Look at term. In the term, I have simply used the variable name, argument name term. Now there are two different values here. It could be a short term or it could be a long term. So if it is short term, it will take this path. If it is a if it is short term, this path, long term, this path. Now if it is long term, if I open this again, one more sequence where I have used a log message saying will be paid in greater than 5 years. Long term, let's say I'm taking a condition. You can say 5 years, 10 years. So here I'm saying will be paid greater than 5 years. So 5 year is the condition. If it is greater than 5 years, it becomes a long term. Less than 5 years, it's a short term. So based on your choice, you can put a value here. I have taken as greater than 5. Short term. So if I open this sequence, there's an activity which is will be paid less than equals to 5 years. Understood? So this term value is also a value stored in an Excel file. Okay. So now based on the argument, now I have provided some default values, let's say greater than 100K and short term. I've given some default values here. Now it is your choice. Let me just remove it and keep it blank. I was testing certain things. So here I have left it blank. Okay, no values at the moment. Now this workflow will only work if you provide some value. If you provide certain value, it will work and take the path. And finally, record updated, I am saying data saved. So there is an argument here called result. Let's see what kind of argument it is. Now it is an argument which is an out type. it is going to send some output data called data saved. If your workflow finally reaches here, right, after following all this path, if it reaches directly here, it will say data saved. So that is the verification, if it is reaching here or not. Now, how do you create a test case? Before we create a test case, till now what we have done, we have created a XAML file. Okay, you have seen the entire step. Now the next step is create test case. So how do you create a test case? For that, let me go back to UiPath Studio, click on the projects tab, right click on the XAML which contains your workflow, and then click on create test case. And here give it a name. For example, I'll simply give it a name called test case 1. Now let me simply create it. I am not going to select any test data at the moment. Simply I'm going to create it. The moment you create, what happens? In the XAML file, all the arguments that you have created, that comes here in the when section. If I'm going to click on this, you should be able to see all the 3 different values that you have given in the Excel file. Okay, in the XAML file. All those things you would see it here. Let me hit on cancel. Now in this case, now one thing I am surprised, I did not save it probably. Now if I import, okay, the values are gone. I was getting some static values here, so it has all gone. So these are the 3 different arguments. Now what should I do? In the given section, let us use a multi-assign activity. And what are our 2 the arguments? This is our first argument. Let me copy and keep it in a Notepad. Loan volume. What is our second argument? Term. And what is our out argument, which is result. Okay, let's go back to the test case. In the test case, in the given section, I'm going to first use the very first argument, which is loan underscore volume. Now let us put, because this is where you have to create a variable. So right click, create variable, and copy paste that name, hit enter. So what happened? For this test case, you have created your very first variable, which is loan underscore volume. Clear? Now let us pass some hard-coded values. So what are the different values we had for loan volume? 1K, 1K to 100K. Let me pass this particular value, greater than 100K. This is string value. I'm simply passing it. I'll put a double quote, pass it. Clear? Let's hit on add, and the next input that it needs is term. These are the 2 inputs. Again, create a variable, control K. So the next variable that we have created, string variable, is term. And what are the values we can pass? Short term, long term, anything like we want. So here I'm going to pass short term, let's say short term, or let's do a long term. Anything of your choice. Different conditions. You're simply trying. Here within double quote, I'm passing this. So what would happen? These values are stored in locally in the test case. These are the variables. Okay. Now let's change the scope to test case. Go back to the when section. Click on import arguments. And here in the argument button, because you have kept the same name, automatically all the variables have appeared. Okay, that is the benefit. Now for result, let's create one more variable here called result, hit enter and hit on OK. All right, so the result will come here. Now in the then section, let us use some verification activity. Verification. Okay, so I'll use verify expression with operator I'm going to use. Now here, what is the variable which contains your this one, your result? In the result variable. So what you do, highlight this, go to the variable panel, and here I am going to make it to test case so that it appears here. Now if you type, it has come. Now what should be the final value that we are expecting in the output? Let me first show you. So once it goes through short term, long term, the final thing is record updated where it should say data saved. This is what we are expecting, whether it is going through all the loops and reaching here or not. That is our expectation. So here what I will do, equals to data saved. So finally the result should say data saved. If it is saying, then one of the test data is passed. Now if I'm going to run this, look at it. Our main aim is to understand activity coverage. That's why we are doing all of this, just to understand activity coverage. Okay, now what happened? This is a high, so if you see the output, this is a high volume loan, 100K, will be paid in greater than 5 years, verification passed, the expression result say data saved. So it has reached. Now let's do one thing, click on the test explorer. And here what it said, hey, you know what happened? Just now the test data that you have passed to test your workflow, right? To test your workflow, it has only covered 53% of the activities. You may be having 10 activities, 20 activities. It has only covered how many activities? 53%. Covered means executed. It has executed only 53% of activities from your workflow. Interesting. Now let us see this. Let me go to the test case. So what you can do, if you click on this, it shows you 53%. Now click on show coverage. So it will bring the workflow. Now in the workflow, you will see, let me slightly minimize. You will see certain things has been colored in green. Okay. So for example, if you see 1, 2, 3, so it has taken this path. It was greater than 100K. It was greater than 100K. So it took this path, and it was in long term. So it took this path, the right side path. So that's what it is saying, how the number of activities that you have, out of which it has executed only 53% of the activity. Now what value addition does it do? So you haven't tested all different scenarios. You have tested only some of the scenarios. Understanding, you did not do this, you did not do this, you did not do this combination. What if low volume, but again it is a long term. So all different types of conditions you have not tested. Okay, so how will you do it? Okay, so for that I have prepared a simple Excel file. Okay, so third thing, what we have learned the third thing, the important term, it is called partial coverage rate. Sorry, let me type third dot. This is known as partial coverage rate. So what you have saw, just now what you saw, 53% is a partial coverage. It's not a full coverage. You did not cover so many activities. You have only executed few activities in the workflow. So this is called as partial coverage rate. This is the example of partial coverage rate. Now we are going to see the next one is full coverage rate. See, so many new things you are learning. Now if you have patience, if you listen to me continuously, you are getting a lot of knowledge. Full coverage rate. Now what is it and how to do it? Let's see it. For that, prepare a simple Excel file, and here you create different, for example, 1K, it could be a long term, 1K could be a short term, 1K could be a short term. Here it is 100K is a long term, here 100K is a short term. So different combinations of data you have created. Now let me save it. Go back to the studio. So how do I pass all the values, all different data situations, so that all the activities are covered? For that, go to projects panel. Simple. Right click on the test case. Right click on this and then click on add test data. Click on this, select file and select the file. So here are my file. I have kept it in documents, activity coverage testing, open. So that is the file. Now remember, if this error happens, that certainly tells you that you have kept the file open. Now let me close it. Right click again, add test data, click on file and simply select the file. Okay, now it shows all the data that is there in the file and click on import. Okay, one or more affected workflows contains both arguments and variables with the same name. Please remove the variables if your intention is to use arguments inside. So now let's go back to the test case. It got imported, the data got imported. Go to the test case. Now the test case don't need this given section where you're passing some hard-coded value. You are having an Excel. So what you do, simply delete this. Okay. Next thing, the variables, right? All the variables that was there, for example, loan volume term, this is not needed. So delete it, delete it. Result you need it. Okay. So leave that. Now click on import arguments. So you see everything is properly done. Now how do you run it? You have told it, okay, I have certain data in my Excel. Now you have to run in all the test cases. So if you see here on the right hand side, it is showing you there are 9 different test data in your Excel, which the UiPath has picked, and it is showing you the first one is less than 1K. In the term column, the value is short term. The second row, loan volume column, having 1K to 100K, and the value of term is long, term column is long term. Like that, all the values it has got. So you have created some 9 different test datas, test situations. Okay, now the question is, how do I really run this? So this is your workflow, which has given when and then. Now to run it, simply click on this and click on run with file data variations, or just to see, simply hit on debug file with data variations. Now it is giving you all this data. Simply select all of them and click on run. So what would happen? Now all the 9 cases that was there in your Excel file now will be covered one by one, one by one, one by one. Look at it. Okay, so you can see the verification is getting passed on the output panel. So for different test data, it will be taking different paths. Okay, just a second. Okay, so it has tested all the data. Now if you click on this, what it's saying, it is 100% coverage. So if you simply highlight this and hit on show coverage, now you can see all the boxes have covered. So this is called activity coverage. See, so nicely, it took little time, but again, complete understanding we have got. See what is activity coverage. Now it is saying 100%. That means all the different variations, all the checks you have done. So that means it's good. Okay, it is not 90% or 95%, 100% coverage you have done. All the activities have been covered. It has gone through all the different branches. This is where activity coverage is very, very helpful. Okay, for example, if you click on this, okay, click on this, it is saying 53%. So what happened in this 1K? It was less than 1K, and it was just the term was short term probably. Okay, so if you hit on show coverage, it will tell you, okay, for this particular test data, it has taken this particular path. For example, if you select second data, show coverage, it will say for this it has taken this path. Do you see? If you click on this, show coverage, it is telling you for this it took this, and for short terms it took this path. So different variations and how it, for example, click on this, show coverage. So this is it not helpful? It is definitely a lot of help to understand how our data is flowing or what kind of a path it is taking. Okay, so that is the activity coverage. Now it is time to go through certain documentation from UiPath and understand it in a little more detail. On your browser, simply type UiPath Test Coverage and you would find these documents from UiPath Docs. Now, as you have gone through the exercise and you have seen how it is helpful, now it is the right time to really see and read the documentation where you would have much better understanding of all the sentences written here. Okay, so I have covered almost all the things, but in case I have missed something, you will definitely get it from the documentation. So please kindly go through the documentation, and I'm pretty sure you'll be able to easily understand this specific document post you have seen my video entirely. Thank you guys for watching. Let's move on to our next topic, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel, and also please give it a like to the video. There's a lot of hard work which goes behind the scene. Do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel.